Well, good evening, everyone. And Bob, wherever you are, thank you for the shout out, and I want to do the same to you. I work in a college, and where you see students, I just see a germ pool. So for the last 4 weeks, I'm going to say to you what I've said on several occasions where I have to give these talks, is that I apologize for my voice tonight, but that I hope at the end of it you will think of what Mark Twain said about Richard Wagner's music: it's better than it sounds. So somebody got it. I want to thanks to Kathy and her team and the board of directors and members of the Ad Club for this award. It is truly an honor, which I accept with deep humility and gratitude, recognizing, of course, that I am only one of many, some of whom are in this room tonight, who are working hard every day to quicken the promise of diversity and inclusion in their businesses, their organizations, and their communities, knowing full well that our work here is not to extract, but rather to add value to human society, if we are to truly become that splendid thing that we can be at our very best. It is now, I hope, universally acknowledged that the different points of view that emerge from diverse cultural heritages and ethnic backgrounds enlargen our aesthetic horizons, enrich our intellectual discourse, sharpen our historical perspective, and give increased focus to who we are and what we stand for as a nation. And this is the future of our great nation, and this is the future of the world, as you have seen, as we become increasingly global and diverse in almost every sphere of human life. A French poet and philosopher, much smarter than me, once said that, the trouble with our times is that the future is not what it used to be. And there are those who see the future and run away from it, and there are those who see the future and run towards it. And as this award in our own experience attest, history is always on the side of those who run towards, not away from the future, because the arc of history, while it is long and a dusty road, will always bend towards justice. Diversity is the order of life. It is the de rerum natura, in the nature of things, wrote the first century Roman poet Lucretius. We see its sweet beauty in the biodiversity of life. We value its efficacy in our retirement accounts and our investment portfolios. Its power is evident in what we eat. Its truth is present in our literature, our languages, our art, and our families. And we experience its efficacy in our workplaces. Inclusive excellence, when it is deeply embedded in a company or an organization, is not an add-on. It's not a program with a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but rather in its ideal and best form, it nurtures a habit of mind, a rhythm of work or play that forms the patterns that shape our living days and years until equality, to paraphrase Dr. King, rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Inclusive excellence is good for business. And in today's work world where business success depends on creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and communication, diversity of thought and ideas, new ways of seeing the world through several rather than a single lens, inspires us to do our very best work. At Emerson, inclusive excellence, it sits at the center of the work that we do. It is deeply ingrained in the culture, it is organic, and it is ever evolving as the college learns and grows. At Emerson, we know that this work is never fully done because it is not seen as a solution to a problem that needs to be fixed, but rather as a noble aspiration and an expression of our common humanity. At Emerson, diversity leads to inclusion when people are able to bring their full selves to study, to learn, to create, to innovate, and of course, to work with each other at the highest levels of performance. Our Office of Diversity and Inclusion, which is led by our extraordinary Vice President, who's over here today. Don't any of you speak to her because she's staying with me, and her team, plans and implements robust programs and practices designed to enhance the ability of the members of the Emerson community to engage effectively and meaningfully across cultural differences, to improve our ability to speak respectfully across racial and other differences of identity and situation, to learn and work effectively with one another, and to ensure that all who work, live, or study here thrive within the warm embrace of our Commonwealth of Learning. We have diversity leadership programs for students. We have cultural competency programs for our faculty, resource support and affinity groups for staff, certificate award programs for managers and supervisors, and all departments are required to set annual diversity and inclusion goals. We inventory intercultural development for individuals, for departments, and in fact for the entire college through a biannual survey. We educate, we consult, we coach, and we support recruitment to meet our diversity objectives. It works for us, and it can work for you. To be really effective, however, I think we all know this, that we must not only reach out into the ranks of our workforce, but we must reach up to the CEOs and vice presidents and corporate boards. And I speak to you as the chair of a governance and nominating committee of a corporate board where we have pledged, along with dozens of other investor-owned companies, to increase the gender, ethnic, racial diversity of American boardrooms. You know that we live in an age of unrelenting and remarkable change, especially in how we access information and communicate with one another. New technologies emerge every year, almost every month. It seems profoundly changing human interaction, not always for the better. So in this brave new world, communicators especially wield enormous power. You define the world in which we live, or more precisely, how we view the world. You frame the issues that we address and how we will respond to them. You present products and services that shape the world in which we live. You enable democracies to function by creating informed citizens. So all of you have very important work to do, not only now, but into the future. You know, I grew up in a house without indoor plumbing until I was 6 years old, as did my father for most of his life. In 1954, when the Supreme Court ruled in Brown versus Board of Education that segregated schools were unconstitutional, I was a 4-year-old kid from a poor working class family in a foreign country called Kansas. I would enter kindergarten in the fall. I lived on a street that divided two distinct neighborhoods, poor African Americans to the south and middle-class whites to the north. We lived in what were called shotgun houses. That is to say, if you opened the front door and the back door, you could shoot a shotgun clean through the back from the front yard to the backyard. My parents sent me to the white school, which was not a choice that they had, because it had more resources and fewer students. Most of the kids in this part of my family my neighborhood came from families of laborers like my father, who worked as a butcher, as a meat packing plant, and my mother and grandmother, who cleaned houses for middle class and rich white families for all their lives until they died. My grandparents made a meager living as sharecroppers near Little Rock, Arkansas, where important civil rights battles over the soul and dignity of this nation were waged. My father and mother attended desegregated public schools. But you know, what we lacked in riches, we made up for love and a belief that nothing save family and God was more important than an education. And I have made education my life's work. My story is a twice-told tale. There are many stories. I know that there are many stories in this room, some of them not too different from my own. My story and our story is simply this: that we can create out of the rich diversity of human experience communities of learning, communities made both beautiful and effective by their pluralism, communities of learning that will turn the tide of human want into a sea of joy and light. We must know that female and male, Christian and Jew, African American, white, Latino, Latina, Native American, Muslim, Asian, gay, trans, and straight, we must find what binds us in common hope and need, not what divides us. Because we may or may not all come to love one another, but to be part of the best of this place, we must have the moral courage to respect one another. This is the great American dream, not the kind of dream that is available only to those privileged by history or family income, not the kind of dream that is built on narrow self-interest, but rather a compelling vision of what we could be if we were truly open to the best that is known and thought in this world. The kind of dream that will swing open wide the doors of opportunity, which sets the table for all to enjoy life's bounty. So I challenge you today, when you leave here today, to lift up your strong voices wherever you work or play or live. Lift up your hand of compassion, your hand of hope, your hand of faith. For history instructs us that this great nation, when it meets its challenges head on, with an honest appraisal, with integrity and a commitment to doing what is right, that we will come together, we will work together, we will pray together, we will hope together, we will reach the other side together, and we will stand united as one nation with the hope that our nation's motto, E pluribus unum, the one out of the many, becomes a living creed. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.